Welcome to your new podcast Optimum Ideation with the host and Bridges. Idea interviews. The best of human ideation. Everyone has a superpower. But times are hard, many are in the darkness of their own mind, in need of a helping hand. Helping others to become whole.
Our sponsoring brands.
Third-party people, NFT Fashion, TGC Fashion, MarkPoint.
Enjoy the show.
All right. Hey, welcome everybody to Optimum Ideation Podcast. We're back with another episode here. It's going to be Miss Sharlene Lynch. And we're going to go ahead and introduce her with the first question. What's your story, your resume, and how did you get to here?
Great question. Okay, so I have a background in accounting and holistic psychology, yes, and life on the outside looked amazing, but on the inside there was all sorts of mess happening. And it wasn't until one dark night, September 2011, when my beautiful baby boy took his own life, and that changed everything. On that night, I was in a position to make a decision about my life and live a different life. But it started with being in a state of forgiveness. So when I got home, I tried to resuscitate my baby, not knowing that I wouldn't be able to, but, I did what a mother does. And I tried for 15 very long minutes to try and resuscitate him, all while praying that a miracle would happen. And when the ambulance officers came in with their hands fully laden with equipment, they ushered me outside of the room. And time stood still as I waited for them to be able to do a miracle. And I prayed that they would be able to do what I wasn't able to do. When the ambulance officer came out of my baby's room, my Scott's room, he looked at me, and I know that he said something, but I actually couldn't hear what he said. But the look on his face said everything, and I crashed to the ground, still praying that I would get a miracle. And that's when I heard it. One word that's changed my life. One word. I thought someone said it to me. It clearly wasn't just somebody. It was very loud. It resonated in my body, and that word was forgive. Later on, as I was able to stand up, the ambulance officer said, "Do you want to come inside and say your goodbyes to Scott?" And I did. I lied down on the ground, and he's 6'2", almost 6'3", and I lied down and I put my head on his chest and I said, "Mummy loves you, baby, and I forgive you for your choice." What I didn't understand is that act of forgiveness was going to be pivotal in my life. And listeners, who do you need to forgive? Is it yourself? Is it somebody else? Is it your family? Who is it? There's always somebody or something we need to forgive. And when we can be in that space of forgiveness, we bring all of our power into the present, and we can make decisions and move forward with our lives like we've never been able to before. That single act of forgiveness to my baby boy shortened my grieving process to be able to heal at the speed of love. And that put me in a completely different position. Now, I will point out that I didn't forgive myself that quickly. Mother's guilt is huge, and it took me quite some time to work through that process. Yes, and forgiving him enabled me to, live and move forward and heal at that speed of love. Later on that night, in Australia, the police come when there is a suicide. So we had the police everywhere in the house, and I'm in my lounge room, and one sitting in one corner, one sitting in the other corner, and they're interviewing people. And I'm sitting on my couch with my feet curled in underneath, and I'm staring at my giant cup of coffee, which is now going cold. And I said, I thought I was really speaking to myself, but I spoke this aloud. I said, I'm not just going to survive through this. I'm going to thrive through this. And so that was such an unusual thing for a mother to say on the night that their son committed suicide, that the police wrote it in their records and later on took me in and questioned me about it. But because I was able to forgive my son, it allowed me to move forward at that speed of love. And yeah, I was able to make a decision. There's so much power in decision. Look, even just the word itself, the word decision means to cut off and kill. So think pesticide, suicide. Side means to kill, and die means to cut. So cut and kill. When we make a decision, we allow our own psychological immune system to kick in to support us on our journey. Now, I didn't even know what thriving looked like. I just knew that it didn't look like how I was living my life right then. I'm going to give you a slice of what my life was happening, behind closed doors.
Yeah.
I was a chronic hoarder, not just a little hoarder, a massive hoarder. We're talking 33 cubic meters of stuff. An alcoholic. I've been drinking for more than 30 years. I was a very good alcoholic, highly functioning, 5 bottles a day. I was OCD to the point of self-harm, ADHD to the point of total distraction, and chronically overweight. So, and I had lots of other health and mental illnesses as well. But I'd made a decision my life was going to thrive, but that's all you need to do. So that's the second learning here, aside from, who do you need to forgive, is making a decision for a different life. You don't need to know all the steps to get there. You don't need to know the details. You just need to make the decision, and then everything else follows. And then the next step for me was that night, nobody slept. Everyone just sort of stared at the ceiling, but we all lied down. And when we got out of bed, I grabbed a spiral brown book. Now, I knew enough about being a woman of faith. I knew enough about giving thanks that gratitude would raise my frequency. So I just started writing out everything I was grateful for. And to this day, I still have a gratitude journal, and I also do stacks of different gratitude activities that help me stay in that high frequency. Listeners, did you know that gratitude has a frequency of 540 hertz? That's right up there with joy and love. So if you're in a low frequency position, if you've got shame, guilt, blame, all of those low frequencies, if you need to shift that, all you need to do is lean into gratitude. So those 3 steps helped me move forward. And then sometime down the track, I became the person that I am. And in the process, I unpacked the 5 steps that got me here. And that's what I speak about on stage, is the shift process. And that's what I help my clients with. And so I love the shift process. Yes, and I didn't unpack it straight away. It took some time to unpack that. But that's me. I'm now the Vice President of Healing Through Love, which is an organisation that creates pamper days for survivors of family and domestic violence. And we're next month in May, this month now, we're going global. So we're very excited to be taking that global. I'm a speaker and also a business coach, and work with wellness practitioners, because my mission, as I've unpacked, is to raise the frequency of the planet. Big job, yes, I know. Unable to do it by myself, but what I can do is help other wellness practitioners be the best that they can be, and shift their frequency and lift the frequency of the people around them. So together, like a rising tide lifts all ships, we can lift the frequency of this planet.
Yeah, what a great mission. And I don't even know what I could say about what you've been through, but having lived a very troubled life myself, I just kind of put this show together to show other people that, no matter where you're at or what you've been through, that you can take your situation and turn it around. And through things like forgiveness and gratitude and appreciation and participation and things like this, we can make a big difference in our lives. But there's so many steps that you have to go through, and I'm glad that you've unpackaged that for everyone.
Oh, yes, and the body of the work lies in the shift process. So if we've got time, I'd love to take the audience through the shift process. Very simple, very relevant, and it can apply to someone in their personal life, but also in their business life as well. Okay. And it's the impactful steps that made the difference and got me from where I was, a screaming mess of a human being, to where I am now, a world-class transformational professional speaker.
Yeah, I've got a question just for that here in a second. But the first question to follow here will be everybody, that gets where they want to go, know where they want to go in life. And where do you ultimately want to go?
Oh, well, that's easy. So once we've launched the Healing Through Love on a global stage, then helping that manage so that we can lift that up to be the best it can possibly be. And yeah, I'm at the moment, I'm only working 4 days a week. I really want to dial that back to 3 days a week and continue my international speaking, and more automate my business so that I can bring on more team, and I'm really just overseeing the process of unpacking people's intellectual property.
Well, I may be able to help you with some automation because that's kind of what we do over here. Let's see here. What layers did you have to reveal to become who you are now?
Yeah, so to the outside world, I had to get real. I had to admit I was a hoarder. I had to admit I was an alcoholic. I had to have public conversations with people about my self-harm, my OCD, my ADHD, my dyslexia. Keeping things like this a secret were not working for me.
Right.
It took more time and effort to keep these things covered up than it did for me to stand in my own power and share that with people. Yes, and that does stem from a place of forgiveness, forgiving yourself, and yeah, obviously making that decision so that you can actually move forward with life. Yes. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I think any high performer has to go through these steps, and it's almost like a dying of your past self to become who you are.
Yes, we do. We have to die to our old self, and we have to do it continuously. It's not just a once-off thing. We have to do a process of letting go all the time, letting go of our own old identities, letting go of our old ideas, because if they did serve us, we would be where we need to be. And we're obviously in a mission moving forward. So we do need to grow and evolve all of those processes and thoughts.
Wow. Now, with that being said, what is the next layer for you to remove?
Yeah, so we've been just talking about that. My other half went to a football game yesterday, and we both said, like, he's 60, I'm 56, is that we really need to lean into being more fit, more active than we currently are. And so that's the next ideation, is getting fit.
Yeah.
We're relatively fit, but we just need to take it up a notch. Speaking takes a lot of energy, and you really need to be that level of fit to present, even if you're presenting just for an hour. But some of my presentations go for 8 hours. I'm doing a workshops.
Wow.
And so you really just need to be fit so that the speed to recovery is much quicker.
Yeah, that'll wipe you out there, 8 hours. Let's discuss some of your most challenging trials and tribulations.
Well, going through the act of forgiving myself meant I really needed to dive in deep to how I got to where I was, and to really have a degree of honesty that I wasn't previously happy to talk to even myself about. So unpacking that really, I had to stand above the line, stop blaming other people for how it is I got to where I am, take full responsibility of all of my thought processes, my words, my actions, and just, it's not my parents, it's not my particular genealogy, it's not my particular DNA, it's not my upbringing, it's not any of those things. It is, I'm an adult now, I get to make a decision how I want my life to be, and now I need to step into that.
Yeah, very good. Well put. When you first started on this journey in your career, what is something that's more trying than you had expected?
So I had a vision. I'd always been someone who could speak. Worked to small groups, large groups of 700 people, and I'd been doing that for more than 30 years. So I really didn't think that speaking would be that difficult. Yes, and I was wrong. When it came to speaking about my own personal challenges, my own personal life, my undressing, that was like standing naked on stage. And that was much harder, even though I'd gone to a college and I went to the Speakers Institute, became educated, like did all the courses, I could tick all the boxes. I actually ended up going back and becoming a speaking coach. Yes, and standing on stage, revealing your own soft underbelly, talking about the challenges that you've had and how you've overcome them, and being really personal about them, that was much more difficult than I could possibly imagine. That's where you're really having a really strong understanding of body language came into it, so that I could be congruent with my message when I'm speaking to people, and not just go internal.
Yeah. Yeah. Funny story. I like to do all the hard things in life. And I actually failed speech in college. and I don't know that it was because I was so bad, but I was a very shy person, a very, but bold in a sense. I would do bold things, but like you say, it's hard to share things about yourself. Me, when I go in to do this thing such as this podcast and share things, I'm going to just go do the hard thing, and we're just going to do it and get it out of the way. This is what's going to help people. That's what we're going to do, and, even though speaking was something that I didn't, do great in college or what have you, hey, I got to take this thing, and we're going to take this thing and make it a success. Right. Now, when did you become passionate about your focus?
So I've always been passionate about pulling back the covers about what's really happening for us as humans on this planet, and for us to take responsibility and to understand that we've got immense power and that we can move and change and shift through anything. So that's always been my mission. It was probably about just over maybe 25 years ago when I started to have a series of dreams, and these dreams then became a book, and it's a science fiction. That's when I really became very passionate about lifting the frequency of the planet. And so it's been an ongoing mission for me to find ways to shift the frequency. Yes, and in the middle of that, I had my own personal drama as I unpacked the layers of myself and got myself into the mess that I was in. Yes, and I never took my hand off my heart to move forward and shift that. I shared the science fiction story with lots of people to help them see that there's opportunities for change and shift. Yes, and I was not living that truth myself. I was talking it, I wasn't being it. And it wasn't until that fateful night in September 2011 when my baby boy took his own life that was the fork in the road to step into the things that you've been saying, to step into being that person on every level that, spiritually, emotionally, physically, so that you can step into that ideation of yourself.
Yeah. I had always said that I'm not afraid of anything, like nothing, I was a very bold person. But there was always like these little things, like the speaking thing wore me out. But it's just you wind up just getting tired of that, having something holding you back, and you just got to take charge of it and make it a success in your life.
Yeah, fail forward. I'm a lover of failing forward and failing fast. And people who are listening, if you're an entrepreneur, you understand exactly what I'm talking about, because it's a series of failures. And that's okay, because we've got a different level of risk aversion than people that work in a corporate position. So we're prepared to take the risk, and with that risk comes failure, and those failures are learnings. And it's all part of the process.
Yeah. And my last fear I had to get rid of was jumping on the camera. I'd never wanted to be this person doing this, but I felt like this is the last little layer. I'm going to peel it off. Let's see. Who were the greatest contributors to your character?
Oh, definitely my parents on every level. And I also got all of their interesting traits. So mum was OCD. So yay, thanks mum. And dad had just so dad's totally dyslexic, and he had a really fascinating way of looking at life, the universe, and everything. And look, he was very brave, and he thought very much outside the box. So both of my parents were ministers of religion. My dad was a psychiatric nurse. My mum was a general nurse.
Wow.
Dad, I was just trying to figure this out the other day. It was 11 years old when my dad was teaching me kinesiology. Now, that wasn't even a thing back then. I'm 56.
Yeah.
We're talking about a long time ago. It wasn't even a thing. And it was definitely outside of the realm of what a psychiatric nurse would lean into, or even a minister of religion, just understanding that the muscles have that level of power and our body actually knows what's happening. And he was teaching me kinesiology at 11. Equally, he was, teaching me tapping, which is now only a thing, but, 2-3 decades ago, it was not even a thing. So the way that he had a very curious mind, and he just asked so many questions, and until he understood, and he just kept on asking. He wasn't afraid to ask the questions. Yeah, so I think that I put up a little barrier somewhere in my 30s or 40s that I wanted people to think that I knew what I was talking about. So I just wouldn't ask the questions. And we need that curious mind. We always need to be that student, and we always need to be open. So I'm definitely different now. I ask so many questions. I am the most curious human. Yes, but I did go through a phase of blocking myself off. But definitely my parents, and most of all my dad.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my parents could say that I was a very curious kid, and I don't think I ever stopped. And even if I looked stupid, I didn't care, because I would benefit from asking the question. And I guess that led us to here.
Well, it's true. It's one of my best qualities. Is I will just keep asking the questions until I get all the juice out. We call it extraction, and that's great. That helps my clients really understand a different layer of what it is and how they serve, so that we can then explain that to their likely clients for the front end of their funnel.
Yeah, very good. Who were you at your lowest, and who are you at your best?
Well, definitely. So I didn't know how bad things were until Scott passed away. I just didn't know. I was oblivious to see the mud that I was living in. Yeah, I knew that I had an issue with drinking, and I knew that I was, had an issue with collecting. Our hoarders don't like to be called hoarders. We like to be called collectors. I knew that I had a challenge with collecting. I knew that I had these challenges, but I just kept pushing them down. So, they say it's darkest just before the dawn. Well, that was my dawn. And that's when my darkest point was, just before the dawn. And who am I at my best? I'm a great contributor, and I like to jump in and make a difference. And that also is my downfall, because I get myself involved in lots of different projects from things that are happening at church or in my community or even on my street. So I'm my best when I'm helping others feel included, and I'm communicating, and I'm working towards a common mission.
I love it. Yeah. What's your best piece of advice for an audience that truly wants to better themselves and others in this lifetime? And this is kind of the question I said earlier, that I've got something for that.
Look, I'd love to share the shift process. Absolutely. Yes, I think this would be answering your question. It doesn't take long. I'll just quickly run through it. So know this, I didn't understand the shift process until after I unpacked it. And I'm going to explain how I unpacked it while I'm explaining the process, and it will all make sense. So what I understand about us as humans is we keep ourselves in loops, especially with language, and mindset is just a perfect example. Our mind is not set, it is malleable, and we need to change our language around that. And if we could start calling it mind shift, if we could talk about I had a shift, and instead of using that word, I want mindset to come out of the dictionary, and I want mind shift to go in. Because when we language that it is something that can be shifted, then we can help our own selves change by supporting ourselves with language. When we change our language, we change our life. So the first letter of the shift process is S, and S is to see the big picture. See the big picture. What is possible for your life? What could it look like? And it needs to be so, so big. It needs to be so big that it's uncomfortable. If you think, oh yeah, I can do that, it's not big enough. It needs to be absolutely amazingly large. Now, not long after I would finish writing that very first list on gratitude, I picked up my journal and I wrote down what I want my life to look like. And a shaking hand, shaking heart, shaking voice, I wrote down world-class transformational speaker. Well, how dare I write that down, considering the shitty mess my life was in? Yes, and that was my big goal. That was my goal beyond my goal beyond my goal. That was to live a life that was that I could share and make a difference for people, but I wasn't even healed myself.
Yeah.
Now, here's the challenge is that it's not just once that I tried to sort out my alcohol, sort out my OCD, sort out my hoarding. This isn't just the first time after my son passed away, but previously what I had done is taken the advice of other people and had a look at where I am right now. Boom, boom. That doesn't work. If you have got mental challenges, if you've got health challenges, things aren't that amazing for you, you need to start by a bigger picture of what your life could look like. And that's why the S is so important, is to see the big picture. Because when we can do that, we're casting our frequency, we're casting our energy forward, and we're giving ourselves a direction to go. When we start with what the mess we're in right now it takes your frequency down and you become paralyzed. So seeing the big picture for me, which is that list that went on for pages and pages and pages about what I wanted my life to look like, that is the S of the shift process. So once you've crafted your big picture and it's massive, very uncomfortable, then you can do the next letter, which is H. H is to hone in on reality. This is where you need to get real. This is probably where you need to get a coach, a mentor. For me, I needed to get a therapist, well, more than one therapist, and I needed to go to group sessions because I needed to get real about where I was. I needed to get real about the alcohol, real about the self-harm, real about the hoarding, and real about my health issues as well. So you need to hone in on reality. Now, this isn't a time to try and fix everything. This is just a time to identify the challenges. And that's all you need to do. And why not trying to fix them, just identify them. You remove yourself from them and you look at them as an observer, and you can be much more detailed about the challenge. Oh, hello. I don't know. Oh, you've disappeared off the screen. So I'm sure you're still there. Okay. So the H is to hone in on reality. And this is where you, as I said, you need to get outside help. So what that does is now you know exactly where you are and you've got your picture about where you want to go. Now you've got that line in the sand. Now you've got you can just draw a line between here and there. That gives you a roadmap so that you know where it is that you want to go. The next letter is possibly my most favorite letter, and that is I. So I is to implement quick wins. This is a game-changing letter, implementing quick wins. So as a recovering perfectionist, I can tell you that I wouldn't do anything unless it was perfect. Well, it was never perfect, so I wouldn't do anything. So yes, I was a procrastinator as well. That night when I gave up my giant cup of coffee, and this was about the size of the coffee that I had, this is tea, as you can see, but I would have 8 cups of these a day, and 8 cups of these a day. Why? Because I needed it to balance the 5 bottles of wine that I was drinking. When you drink that much wine, you need that much coffee to get you up and get you going in the morning. Wow. Okay. So when I gave up the coffee, what it did is it gave me a serotonin hit, and it made me believe that other change was possible. And this is so true. This is what implementing quick wins. So today, just from our conversation here, if you can just take just one thing from this entire conversation and implement it, you'll be taking those steps towards the life that you want to live. We need to implement quick wins because where you are to where you want to go, there's a big gap in between that. And if we try and take a huge jump, it's like you fall down the chasm. When you take tiny steps, one step at a time, just 1% at a time, and you compound that, you've got compound interest. And that allows you to move forward. For me, I call it at the speed of love, healing at the speed of love. So you definitely need to find and implement quick wins. So regardless of what your big picture is and where you are right now, what are the quick wins that you can implement to help you move towards that? I love it. The next letter of the shift process is F, and F is to focus in on the pattern. Focus in on the pattern. And this is where journaling comes in. This is where journaling comes in. Journal, 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 journal. And I still journal today. I journal every day. And I do another thing that's a little bit different than just normal journaling, is I do what's called rejournaling. So at the end of every week, I rejournal that week. So I've got a bunch of pages and I'll rejournal that into one paragraph. At the end of every month, I'll rejournal and take all of those paragraphs and concisely put them down just another 1 or 2 paragraphs. And at the end of 12 months, I will then summarize all of the 12 months of paragraphs, and I will then put that into either a half page or try and squeeze it into a couple of paragraphs. This rejournaling is where the shift process got unpacked from. It is amazing, the journaling. The journaling for me was like having someone else to speak to. It enabled me to get the stuff out, enabled me to see the patterns because they emerge from the page. I could see my repeated patterns, and I could then do some changes. Now, your patterns might not be yours. They could be family patterns. So, it was interesting. The journaling brought me to a better understanding of what was happening with my family. So at 38, I had suicide ideation. And for the longest time, I beat myself up about, that being the reason why my son committed suicide. I'm in a different space now, yes. And though, when I was having conversations with my mum, we put it together that she had her own nervous breakdown at 38. Okay, that could be a coincidence, but this definitely isn't. Her mother, my grandmother, committed suicide at 38. So look, that's just an example from my family and a family pattern. There's hundreds of them, but these patterns are everywhere. And by journaling, it helps you come to the realization of what these patterns actually are. And if you stop a family pattern, your children don't have to live it. So, we want to step in to be better parents. Let's have a look at the family patterns and see what we can do to change those. Now, some of you might believe in past lives, and they might not even be this life pattern. There might be a past life pattern. If that's the case, I'd definitely go and speak to someone who's a specialist in that area. So that's the F, the focus in on the patterns. And the last letter, the T, is take massive imperfect action. As I said, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And I've just got to say that the action needs to be taken, and it doesn't need to be perfect. I would wait until it was perfect and I stood like deer in headlights and didn't get things done. But when you take massive imperfect action, yes, you fail, and yes, you fail forward and you fail fast, but yes, you're moving, and we need to move. If you've got a destination, a place you want to go, things that you want to do, lives that you want to help, you need to take steps forward. And it's just like if you were standing where you are right now and you wanted to walk to the door, if you didn't move, you're never going to get there. But if you took a step, even if you didn't know exactly where the door was, you can even course correct to get to that door. We need to find ways to keep in motion and stop second guessing ourselves so that we can take that step forward. So that's the shift process, which I was able to unpack by going through and, diving in deep and rejournaling my journals to see, okay, there's some patterns here. This is what this is. This is how I've got myself from where I am to where I am today, from where I was to where I am today. So that's the very like just top layer of the explanation of the shift process. It's also something I deliver at an hour-long keynote and also deliver as a workshop as well. So, and it's the foundation of the process that I work with wellness practitioners to unpack their own intellectual property so that they can have their own zone of genius.
Yeah, very helpful. Yeah, I figured I'd give you the full screen on that one.
I'm like, you're done. Where are you? I'm by surprise.
No, I think you did great. It's definitely everything that I've went through, and I think it's a great share. You got a great process you're building there. It's perfect. Yeah. So now, what practices or techniques throughout your day make your day a success?
Oh, so, so start slow, stay high is what I say. Lots of people say start high, stay high, but I need to ease myself in transition from sleep, from the unconscious mind to the conscious mind. So I do this thing which I call sitting in it. And what that is, and I've been doing this all of my life. This is not just a recent thing. And that is, learning from my dreams. And what that looks like is before I'm fully conscious, I've trained myself to just sit in the dream and as a curious observer, so not changing. So we're not talking about lucid dreaming. We're not talking about changing anything. I just observe, where am I? What's happening? Who are the players? How do I feel? And it just gives me an opportunity to observe it. And so I bring that subconscious thought into my conscious mind. And then it gives me an idea about, okay, these are the lessons. These are the things. This is what's happening for me. Because that's what dreams are really supposed to be for. So then as soon as I've got an understanding, a learning, or sometimes it's just a feeling, then the first thing I'm going to do is be grateful. So I do a gratitude journal, but I don't even actually write it down. I just lie in bed and just speak into my day and speak gratitude for being alive, for where I live, for my beautiful husband, for all of the things. So basically it's giving grace. And then the next thing I do is I start with like an intention of what I'd like my day to look like and how I want it to feel. So I'm casting forward that frequency and energy. And I'll either meditate while I'm still in the bedroom, or I'll meditate when I move into another room. It just depends on what's happening for that morning. No mornings are the same in this house. Everything's different every day. And sometimes I'm, as an international speaker, I'm not actually in my own bed. I'm in a hotel. So, but yeah, that's so that's a starting slow to stay high. And for me, that really does set the tone for the day.
Yeah. I found that we just have these little routines or these little things. And I saw you're drinking tea. I drink a lot of teas and moringa tea and ashwagandha and just different little supplements and things that really help out for your mentality.
Yes, we do take a lot of supplements. We take greens, we take fiber, and we intermittent fast as well. So that has been very impactful for me, is that my meditation, my prayer, my processes in the morning are much clearer and cleaner because I am fasting every day. And it's also time saving, but it also just helps me not get bogged down. The energy is not going to digestion. It's staying where it needs to so that I can focus. And because mornings were not always my best, as you imagine, being 30 years an alcoholic, mornings were not my most amazing time. And now I have recrafted mornings so that they are my time, my personal time. And they're, quite frequently my best time of the day because I'm getting so many downloads. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So I don't want to keep you too long, so let me kind of skip down here. Do you have a networking event, a book, product, invention, or service that we can promote to the audience?
Yeah, so I regularly run a masterclass for wellness practitioners. So you just need to find me anywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. I've got my own my website, which is Sharlene Lynch, spelt with an S, so the Irish way. So Sharlene Lynch, and it's on Instagram. It's on everywhere actually. So that's probably, if you're a wellness practitioner, that's something to look for, and that's free, and that gives you an opportunity to dive into becoming your own expert authority, so that we can unpack your intellectual property, so that you can create your own zone of genius, and you can be the expert of that zone by languaging it differently. Yes. So, I'm one of a gazillion mindset coaches. I'm the only MINDSHIFT coach. Yes. So that makes you instantly an expert authority. So yeah, I'd love any of the listeners to jump on who need to unpack their intellectual property, and that would help them learn. And also regularly running classes for free, which you'll find out on any of my platforms, in and around body language and speaking to camera. And please join me. It'd be great to see you and to connect with you.
Very good. Now, you had mentioned some, but what's the best way for the audience to support you or your mission and get in contact with you?
Yeah, if you feel a connection and you feel that I can make a difference for your group, if you'd like me to speak for your group and make a difference in that space, please reach out via the website. If you've got a wellness practice and you're looking for a coach to get you to that space where you can scale your business and streamline and, work basically less and earn more money, which is my motto, then reach out to me. You'll find me through my website. It's the best way to get hold of me. I do have a free resource that I think might be very beneficial for the listeners, and that is how to connect with your purpose. So if it's okay with you, I'll share a link with you that you can put in the notes, and that is 25 minutes of video. They're broken up into 5 minutes, so there's 5 videos, and they are how to dive in deep to find your sweet spot, the thing that you want to be doing. So this is the process that I took myself through to find out that this is exactly what it is I need to be doing, and so that I'm living my life on purpose. Now living life on purpose, it feels easy. There's no push. And every day is amazing. So I'd love to share that with the listeners. That's a free resource.
Yeah, we'll make sure and put it in the comments below there. I always hate this part, but we're wrapping it up, and this concludes our episode today. I'm so glad that you were able to share some time with us and some valuable information. And thank you so much, Miss Lynch. We'll network with you soon. Okay.
Bye for now.
Bye.